Always love that.
Thank you, and I think we owe a big applause for Paul Wittenberger, who and that was actually the first film that Paul and I did. So we went out, we shot one day, and didn't know much about the subject at the time, and we'll get into some other films. But you know, this guy's amazing, because 3 days later he puts this film out, and then my phone's ringing off the hook. They go, "Oh my God, you did a fantastic film." So I think that film was really effective in just waking people up and to get them aware of the issue, and that's really where we were when we had filmed that. But as many of us know in the room today, this issue goes much more deeper. And when we had done that project, it was, like I said, it was just a project. It wasn't, we didn't have an agenda to do a documentary. But the story for me got really interested, and I have dedicated my life to this issue because obviously I was concerned about the issue, but I had learned about the American Association for the Advancement of Science meeting, which was held in San Diego on, I believe it was February 20th or February 22nd. So I went in as a reporter, and they're probably not too happy about that because we spilled the beans on the aluminum. But anyways, went in as a reporter, and for an entire day I had listened to geoengineers talk about their plans to spray aerosols, aluminum and barium, up to 10 to 20 million tons of aluminum and barium into the sky for the stated goal of cooling the planet. And it really blew my mind. And David Keith was one of the speakers. Ken Caldeira was another speaker. But at the time, I still was not aware of how damaging aluminum was. So one of the, Dane Wigington, who will be in the next video, he had asked David Keith after they had proposed these models. He said, "Well, Mr. Keith, what health effects, implications, and environmental implications would dumping 10 to 20 million tons of aluminum into the atmosphere have?" And David Keith responded by saying, "Well, we've done a ton of research on sulfur, and sulfur doesn't have that much of an impact." And Dane said, "I'm not talking about sulfur." He said, "I am talking about aluminum." And David Keith, his eyes just bulged out, and he said, "Well, aluminum, we haven't done much, and we could find something terrible tomorrow that we don't know about." But the aluminum was the key on this issue, because what I had learned during this meeting, Dane pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about what we're finding in massive amounts in Northern California and people are finding around the world." And they're finding massive amounts of aluminum, barium, strontium in the rain, snow, and soil. So that's really what kicked off the documentary. I wanted to look further in this. So they sent me a ticket, I got a film crew, and I flew up to Northern California. And what I found saddened me, and it blew my mind. So the first stop essentially was Dane Wigington's property, and Dane had told me everything is dying on my property. And Dane moved up to the Mount Shasta area, which is far removed from anything. It's one of the most beautiful areas in Northern California, known for its forestry, and Mount Shasta itself should be one of the cleanest areas in the world. With that being said, Dane moved up there to get away from the California pollution and everything. But now everything started dying on his property. So we investigated a little bit. And I guess how it started with him, he noticed his trees were dying, the amphibians were dying, there were less bugs, less crickets and everything. His grass was not growing. So he decided to take a soil test. And when he did take a pH soil test, he found alarming levels. At the very minimum, the soil was 10 times the amount of its normal alkalinity. And I think many people in the room know that many plants and many trees need an acidic soil to grow. So That's what he believes everything is dying from. What he did, he went and did additional tests. So Dane showed me around his property, and he works for Bechtel for a number of years. He's an expert on solar power. During this time, with the aerosol spraying, he has noticed up to a 60% decline in his solar power. He's also done tests on the solar panels, which have revealed very high levels of aluminum and barium. But the most revealing test is what he did. Again, he has 2,000 acres. So Dane builds ponds, about 50 yards. I mean, just massive ponds. So he filled it up with water, and he tested the water and had the normal amounts of aluminum because it was fresh, no barium, but it had about 5 or 7 parts per billion, which is normal. A year and a half later, after what he believes is heavy aerosol spraying, he found alarming rates. Again, 7 parts per billion should be normal, and I just want somebody in the audience to take a guess at the level that they found, unless it's a person that took some of my tests that I had out. At 100? That would seem very high. Anybody else? What was that? You guys, okay, no cheating. Somebody from the back, just throw out a number of the alarming rates. 81,000? 1,000, and 1,000 would be massive amounts. You guys are not going to believe this. The levels that he found from his water test were 375,000 parts per billion.